Hi guys, I'm Libertman, forced to be alone but free to decide how. Today we begin a new series called Debunking Myth of the Manosphere. This section has one clear purpose: to dismantle those general life advice slogans that have been repeated for decades as if they were universal truth for all men, when in reality they benefit some men and can completely destroy others. Most of these sayings comes from parents, grandparents, teachers, priests, traditional psychologists, and even influencers, but all of them are filled with bias. The era they lived in, their personality, their particular life experience, their psychological needs, their cultural and economic context, they simply assumed what worked for me works for everyone. But the world changed, the economy changed, relationship changed, family changed, and most importantly, people are not the same. That's why we use the C4PC model, the 4 mega personality clusters, to evaluate each myth and answer. Who actually benefits from this advice? Who gets harmed? What should each group do instead? So let's begin analyzing myth number 1. Myth number 1 is: you must have children so they will take care of you when you are old. This is one of the oldest and most repeated life instructions. It comes from parents, grandmothers, uncles, pastors, psychologists, priests, traditional thinkers, and many more. But is it always a good idea? Does it work for everyone? Is it universally true? Or is it a myth that benefits only some and becomes a life sentence for others? Let's break it down. Where this advice came from? This idea comes from a world where families were large, community was stable, people lived close to each other, children stayed near their parents, women stayed at home, men worked nearby, there wasn't constant relocation, the economy was local. So in that context, to have kids, having kids, and they were probably will take care of you later. That was statistically true. Also, in that time, there was no social security, solid retirement pension, affordable elder care, therapy, mental health support, extreme individualism. So having children was your insurance. That world is gone. So the current reality today is that most children move far away to study, to work. Everyone struggles to survive. Couples often separate. Many parents end up alone. Individualism dominates. Gratitude is not guaranteed. Emotional maturity is very low. And costs are absurdly high. And a child did not choose to be born. They are not obligated to take care of you. Even if they do care for you, it doesn't mean that you will be happy. And if they depend on you financially, you will carry more burden. So many men have children hoping for future companionship, and they end up being single, raising alone, without emotional support, working more and more, and they get sick and exhausted. It's not guaranteed. It never was, and today even less. So let's analyze this phrase and advice from the C4PC model. What does this advice? Who does this advice help, and who does this advice hurt? Because we are all different. Okay, let's remember the 4 mega clusters or mega group of personality. We have the internal rationals, the external rational, the internal emotional, and the external emotional. Who benefits from this advice? Well, in the case of the external emotional, they are socially oriented, need constant connection, gain energy from people, family is equals identity, and they adapt well to constant noise and flow. For them, having kids can provide purpose, provide community, provide emotional anchoring. If they have a good partner, this path can be fulfilling for these personality types. It can also work for the external rationals, but only if they have enough resources, a structure, and a mature partner. They can build in that case, they can build a functional family system. Which are the benefits? That they can provide financially, they can manage logistics, they can build economic growth, and they can organize family structure. For them, it is a strategic project, not an emotional need. But who is harmed by this advice? Well, firstly, the internal rationals, because internal rationals needs constant silence or most time of silence. They need independence, they need focus, they need emotional demands. Their emotional demands overwhelm them, and family responsibilities drain them. For them, having children may be exhausting, anti-natural, meaning destroying. That destroys their own meaning and can be life distorting. So their creative and professional development can be severely damaged. And also, the ones who can be harmed by this advice are the internal emotionals, because they are very sensitive, need emotional processing time. They have constant stress breaking them. They need deep one-on-one bonds, and they overwhelm easily. For this group, a child may overwhelm them, reactivate trauma, and create chronic emotional failure. They are at higher risk of depression without a strong support. So, in conclusion, for the external emotional, this advice of having kids for when you get old, it is recommended. For the external rational, this advice is conditional to them having the right external situation sorted out with all the external resources. Then it can work. But if they have to struggle with the external world, it won't work. And for the internal emotional, this advice, it is harmful. And for the internal rational, this advice is very harmful. So not recommended. Why this advice can be disastrous today? Because the modern family does not work like it used to be before. Today, children move far away, family loyalty is weak, the emotional maturity is low, couples don't stay together, life is expensive, everyone is overwhelmed, the elderly end up alone anyway. Having kids hoping for future company is like gambling your emotional future. And if your personality is not compatible with parenthood, life becomes a burden. So, which are the consequences of following this myth blindly? For the internal rationals or the internal emotionals, the consequences can be self-betrayal, depression, broken relationships, loss of real purpose, chronic stress, and existential exhaustion. Eventually, resentment toward their children. So, what to do according to your type? If your personality types belongs to the internal rationals, then find meaning in deep work, intellectual projects, autonomy, creative legacy, or mentorship without children. What the personality types belonging to the internal emotional, they can find meaning in art, in a small intimate community, in one-on-one emotional bonds, in therapy and spiritual mentoring. For the personality types that belong to the external rationals, they can be a good path if they have strong finances, they have a mature partner, and they have clear family plan. And for the external emotionals, their natural path includes family, community, tradition, and human networks. So this advice works for them. It's the only group of 4 typologies that this advice is for them, not for the another group only conditional, and for the other 2 groups, the other 2 internal, both rational and emotional, this advice is not for them. It doesn't work for them. So let's see some everyday examples to see the contrast. For example, your grandfather lived in a small town. He had 5 kids. They all lived within 20 blocks away from one another. They visited often. There was a community. So this model and this lifestyle worked, and this suggestion and this advice worked in that time for him. But today your child moves to another province or state or country to work, to study. He has their own life. He visits twice a year, luckily. So this advice is not likely to be implemented. Another example would be for an external emotional that is happy, an external emotional man. So he loves noise, he loves birthdays, he loves a full table of all grandparents, parents, grandchildren, dogs, animals, total chaos. They enjoy it and need all this constant reunion. So for him, having 3 children equals a good life. But for an internal rational, this same situation would make him miserable, because an internal rational man, for an internal rational man, noise destroys his nervous system. The constant demands drains him. So for him, only 1 kid equals hell. And so this myth is not false. It's not true either. It is conditional. It can be a blessing and it can be a curse. It depends on your personality. That's why it's important to know your C4PC macro group, and then to know specifically what personality types and personality traits you have, knowing your MBTI and the Big Five. It depends on your current context, it depends on your partner, it depends on your emotional capacity, and it depends on your economic reality. There is not only one correct path. Not everyone was born for the same life. Not everyone must become a parent. What matters is making decisions aligned with your true nature and not with cultural pressure. So thank you for listening. If something of this video has been helpful to you, please leave a comment and share your thoughts, and please like and subscribe to support this humble channel. Stay strong, take care, and see you in the next one.